If you punish a behavior, that's not reinforcing it. That's trying to suppress it. And in the absence of that punishment, people will do whatever they want. Even with that punishment, if it's really appealing and you don't know why it might be bad or dangerous, you will still click, even though you will be punished. But if you turn that coin upside down and you say, okay, instead of punishing bad behaviors, let's reward good behaviors. And what we find is engagement goes way up. Engagement is the key. Because this isn't complicated stuff. It's common sense with a modicum of knowledge. And then we've got cyber literate employees. And everybody enjoys it. The browser is the last technical barrier between the user and their keyboard, right? And it's not just emails that get read in browsers. There are ads people click on. Ads can be malicious. There's a whole thread of cyber defenses talking about malicious advertisements that get purchased. And the vendors that are selling ads, they don't verify and validate these things all that much. So you could be as innocent as clicking on an advertisement of something that's of interest to you, and it could be malicious in nature. The country that adopts really strong cyber awareness training at the youngest ages, maybe first through 8th grade and then again in high school, is going to have a strategic advantage on the world stage because the world's flat.
Once upon a time, there was a young man in the early days of the internet. When most people barely understood what cybersecurity was, he was already thinking about how to keep digital spaces safe. Fast forward 30 years, Craig Taylor has built CyberHoot, a platform that's transforming how businesses approach cybersecurity training. From his early days in cybersecurity to founding a company that makes security awareness actually work, Craig's here to share his insights with us today. Thanks for coming to the Be Fearless podcast.
John, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your early career and how the industry's evolved since then. You've held leadership roles at major companies like Vistaprint, Chase Payment Tech, and CSC through your 30-year journey. Can you paint us a picture of what cybersecurity looked like back then versus today?
Sure. So, John, back then, the large companies that I worked for had teams of people managing their training programs, right? It was not just a single person in IT. It was more of a division of the companies that I was working at, which then assigned us, on a quarterly basis. I think at the bank, there was probably 8 to 10 hours of training you had to take. And it wasn't all just cyber literacy training. It was all manner of things, know your customer and all these other good stuff. They had really robust training solutions. Same at Vistaprint, the same at CSC. But, as I looked at the small to medium-sized business world, they really didn't have good solutions. They didn't have the labor that they could throw at the problem. They didn't have the finances to purchase these large, expensive LMS systems that were, on-prem or dedicated. And so I thought, oh, goodness, we got to help them because this is where breaches are happening much more frequently. If you had 11 to 100 employees, the Verizon Data Breach Report said you're 15 times more likely to be breached for a variety of good reasons. So that's kind of what the early career / founding of my company kind of came around from, was that recognition that you couldn't throw a lot of money and a lot of people at the problem when you were in the mid-market and smaller.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that we forget, especially in cybersecurity, it's kind of like a weird market where most of the money is actually being focused at like, how do I get enterprise buyers like Chase or like CSC? And by the way, I worked for both Chase and CSC.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of weird. It's like we have these products that we sell into enterprises, and then because the enterprise buyers can buy these products at a premium price. But most of the people that are on the internet doing business are actually in small and medium businesses. Mm-hmm. Those are the folks that are being targeted every day. And a lot of times they can't really afford the cybersecurity products that enterprises buy. I don't know if I've ever seen an enterprise or a small business with like CrowdStrike or, they might have Qualys or some other tools and stuff. But you're right. I mean, I think the people that need to get the training and have the technology available to them, unless they're going to pay a very high price because their tiers are just so low, it's hard for them to take advantage of awareness training technology that's going to help them protect their businesses.
Yeah, John, I think that's been historically the case. And what really in 2014, when my co-founders and I founded CyberHoot, we saw that and we wanted to try and fill that gap, right? So we've brought something that is affordable to the small to medium-sized businesses, even the mid-enterprises. And what's really interesting is we've turned the industry on its head from a punishment of bad behaviors to a rewarding of good behaviors, which actually changes behaviors for the long run. The idea here is that we saw that there was a gap. We tried to fill that gap through automation and a low-cost solution. And so far, we're doing really well at it. It's really fitting a niche, and managed service providers love it because they have a need to bring cyber literacy to their clients to avoid those nights and weekends that their engineers have to recover from this incident and that incident and so on and so forth.
Yeah, let's talk about the CyberHoot a little bit more. I'd like to know more about CyberHoot. You described CyberHoot as your passion project. Mm-hmm. Was there a particular incident or pattern that you kept seeing that you just knew you had to solve?
Yes, actually, there were constant incidents. I have a little, I'm a little visual guide here. 2013 or 14, I was consulting for a business. It was a mid-market manufacturing company, and they brought me in for an incident. And they said, "Can you help us stop this?" And this is $24,000 in $100 gift cards. You see, each one of these is $100, purchased over the course of 2 to 3 weeks by a new employee on a special project for the president of the company. Top secret, couldn't tell anybody. But that new employee maxed out their work credit card, their personal credit card, in the pursuit of satisfying their new secret project with the president, which wasn't really the president of the company. It was obviously a hacker. And that was one of the precipitating events that I said, listen, it's this tiny little bit of of knowledge paired with a bunch of common sense that pretty much everyone has if they just knew what the telltale signs of a phishing email or a social engineering attack or, why password hygiene matters. And so that was the genesis of CyberHoot, is we wanted to build something that was fully automated, passwordless for the employees, where they could just get an assignment link, visit the assignment, do it, be done, and move on with their day. But, teach that modicum of cyber literacy knowledge that, when paired with just anyone's common sense, is a powerful force for defending companies and building that human firewall.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because it's like, even in big enterprises, you see the same kind of thing where someone gets a social engineering attack. There's the CEO is asking someone to go do something, or apparently. And even in enterprises, there are smart, educated people that are falling victim to social engineering attacks, and because they're coming over WhatsApp and they're coming from someone that's senior talking to someone junior, giving them an opportunity to shine. And, people want to make their leaders happy.
Right.
And they want to execute on their objectives. And companies don't know why they do what they do. Like, there's so much work inside the business that someone asks you to do something and you go and you do it. And you're just kind of going back to this is the way we've always done it here kind of mentality. That mentality and that desire to do what your boss tells you to do is a powerful force for a hacker to engineer a outcome for themselves that to your detriment. Again, it doesn't just happen in mid-market. It doesn't just happen in small business. It does happen in enterprises. But a lot of it goes down to the fact that most people don't really think about criminals and fraudsters and hackers and how they might be tricked every day. That gap of knowledge, right? The fact that they don't know that someone might attempt to take advantage of them, I think, is a big part of the problem. What you're trying to do is take this awareness, right? Making sure that people know how they could be taken advantage of, how they could be exploited, and bringing it into a training exercise for somebody. You said passwordless. I'd love to hear more about that. Am I getting that right? You're just trying to bring, awareness to those folks in a way that allows them to understand that they might be exploited?
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 comments on that line of thinking. You're absolutely right, John. First and foremost, people have this naive view that it won't happen to me, right? They just believe that there's a lot of crime out there, but not in my neighborhood. I live in a nice part of the world, and people are good all around me. Every person I meet is kind and considerate, and unless I'm driving on the freeways, but they have this naive view. And combine that with the fact that every person graduating from high school or university has computer literacy, right? They know how to work a mouse and a keyboard and email, but they don't have and never have been taught cyber literacy. Those two combine to make every person out there a sitting duck for a hacker who is monitoring social media, LinkedIn, all these places where people announce, hey, I'm really excited. I'm starting at company X today. And when someone's new, they want to do good. They want to please their bosses, their leadership. They want to, react quickly to things, maybe not thinking through a problem as much as they otherwise would. All of that combines for a perfect storm for breaches and for, allocation of resources in the wrong way. And so what we're trying to do at CyberHoot is basically add that clarity of thought that every person has the entire internet on inside their office. It all terminates on their monitor and keyboard from anywhere, anyone. And if you don't recognize the fact that you haven't learned a lot about cyber literacy or cyber skills in the past, because no one teaches this. They don't teach it in school. They don't teach it in college, unless you're, studying a cybersecurity degree, as you and I have. That is what we're trying to address. We're trying to close that knowledge gap so that people have not only the basic understanding of what could happen, but how to create muscle memory through these exercises. We have something we call Hootfish, John, where we repeatedly send people through an email and we teach them a rubric. It's an open book test. And it asks them with a wizard, is this sender safe? And look out for typo squatted domain names. What is that? That's 1-letter differences where an I could be an L or an M could be turned into an R and an N to make it look like Amazon or Microsoft. And that isn't the same. And that is how hackers hack. Too often, the tools of the world send domain names that are like, account resets are us for a Microsoft email, because you cannot, when you're sending email across the internet, impersonate a vendor with impunity. You get told by their legal team, please stop impersonating us, take that down if the domain name matches the vendor in any reasonable amount, clarity. So what we've done is we've taken it out of the email system and put it on an LMS website where you go passwordless to the CyberHoot website. It's branded for your company or your MSP. And you're told ahead of time, this is our learning management partner. You get an email once a month that says, here's your Hootfish, here's your video. And you visit the website, passwordless, by the way. Every link that we send to you is an encrypted URL unique to you. So we know who you are when you come and complete your assignment. And then you complete your assignment. It has so many interesting advantages in that we have hyper-realistic phishing simulations that people actually can expect to see and learn how to spot and avoid with the typo squatted domain names. It has no need for punching holes in email infrastructure. One of the big problems of fake email phishing or gotcha phishing, which, by the way, there was a Black Hat conference last week in Vegas. I don't know if you went. Security researchers presented that traditional fake email gotcha phishing emails that get sent to your inbox to see if you'll click, not only are those difficult to deliver because you have to punch holes in the infrastructure for it to bypass the filters, but they amounted to 1.7% difference. They had a control group and they had 19,000 other employees. 1.7% difference over 8 months was their conclusion. It didn't really work. And they got 55% of the users in that company to click on one phishing event over that 8-month period. So there's something has to change. This doesn't work. People are still falling for it. And so we see it in the news. So that's where CyberHoot has really tried to turn the environment on its head. Psychology tells us what the answer is to behavior change, John. B.F. Skinner 75 years ago said, behaviors that are reinforced are repeated. Simple. Done. If you punish a behavior, that's not reinforcing it. That's trying to suppress it. And in the absence of that punishment, people will do whatever they want. Even with that punishment, if it's really appealing and you don't know why it might be bad or dangerous, you will still click, even though you will be punished. But if you turn that coin upside down and you say, okay, instead of punishing bad behaviors, let's reward good behaviors. You get two really critical things. Number one, which is the biggest problem cited in that study in Las Vegas, the Black Hat Conference briefing, was that engagement was almost zero. The average person who failed a phishing test spent 10 seconds on the subsequent video they were sent to say, stop clicking on things and here's how you can learn how to not do that. 10 seconds is all they spent on the video, the 50th percentile. Engagement suffers tremendously when you punish. No different than if you're trying to train a dog with a shock collar at the local dog park. How excited is that dog to get that collar put on and go to the park? They're terrified to go and be, zapped all the time. But if you switch it around and you reward the good behaviors, is what we're doing in CyberHoot, which says, okay, you have an exercise, you have 6 or 7 questions. We're going to walk you through. It's open book. There's no risk to you failing. You can learn this because you're engaged. Here's a sending domain from a Netflix email. Is it safe or unsafe? And there might be an I missing, or it says netflix.com is the domain, or it might be netflx.com. First time through, people might say, it said Netflix, but we provide feedback that said, actually, there was an I missing. And that's really important. You need to pay attention that closely. You might have been taught that it should be, account resets or us that you're looking for, but no, hackers don't work that way. They work by dropping an I or adding a period or an S on the end. So we teach that. And so you get to choose, and you walk through an exercise of 6 or 7 questions on a typical email: the sender, the subject, the greeting, the spelling, punctuation, and grammar, the urgency and emotionality, links to external websites that might be obfuscated, bit.ly links, etc., and attachments. And we teach you and walk you through all the good behaviors we want you to do, and then we pass you. You pass the test. Wonderful job. Great job. We give you a certificate of completion, continuing education credits. We give you a gamified avatar that grows over time as you build your cyber literacy in a journey, and you can compete with colleagues and all that gamification. And what we find is engagement goes way up. Engagement is the key, because this isn't complicated stuff. It's common sense with a modicum of knowledge. And then we've got cyber literate employees, and everybody enjoys it. The affect, how people feel doing this, is 100% better than failing a gotcha phishing test and being told you got to go watch a 45-minute video.
Yeah, definitely. I think the punishment part is not good. Two things I think you said. One is the gotcha emails. I think those are a problem because 2 parts. One is because, a little bit is I'm having to punch holes into my system so that can execute. Or I'm launching an attack from inside, and I'm going to call them attacks because they're feigned attacks. I launch an attack from the inside that doesn't have the benefits of the security technology that I have in place, right? It's truly a problematic method because, one, I'm either reducing my security posture so I can execute the attack, or I'm not giving the employees the benefit of my security technology to defend against an attack. Then we're saying, okay, you click the link, bad, like you said, there's like network traffic court, and you get your ticket and you have to go do your remedial training for it. And then second, what we really want is the engagement, right? What I want more than telling them, hey, you failed as a CISO is I want people to be, I'll use your term. I want people to be literate. I want them to be aware. I want them to understand that there is something that folks are going to attempt to take advantage of you, and that by doing so, understanding like how the attack is going to happen what these telltale markers are and being cognizant of that, I think is way better. But going back to the other part is that I think the other way, right? Not the old way, because I think this is very prevalent in our industry right now, that the employee is the weakest link. That's kind of a mantra that we kind of say, is that the employee is the weakest link. But oftentimes when I've looked at phishing attacks that were successful, I find that our technology just isn't keeping up, right? Meaning that even if I have defensive, and this is why I think awareness training is important, because the technology isn't keeping up, or often it's configured incorrectly, that allows attackers to kind of get into your system and take advantage of a user. And we blame the user, right? We tend to blame the user, and they're our last line of defense. They're not our first line of defense. And if our rest of our technologies and our awareness training programs aren't keeping that employee aware and protected, then it's hard for me to blame that employee. I don't like that. I always feel like there's some technology gap that's missing that we need to address. We cannot defend against every single way that people are going to do things. And because technology configurations change over time, we do need the users to be aware and be able to help defend us. But we also want the engagement where if they see something, say something, right? If they see something, let us know that there's a problem or that they suspect that there was a problem. Hopefully they didn't click a link, but even if they did, I'd rather them tell me about it than not tell me about it and be afraid to tell me that they clicked a link. Because we're talking about the fake phishing attack, the gotcha email that we sent to them, and that we're hoping that they click the link and report it. Right. But if they don't, we punish them. The worst thing that we can have is people feeling like if they do report a link, like, hey, I did click this link and now I'm going to report it because I felt like it was fishy after I clicked the link. The idea that they're going to be in trouble would prevent someone from actually reporting the link. So we're kind of like messing ourselves up in a couple of different ways.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. And it's one of those areas where psychology, a multidisciplinary approach would really help if we could just take that approach as a industry as a whole. Cybersecurity is a young industry, John. It's only been around for 30 or 40 years versus all these other industries that we know about: law, medicine, legal, electricians, finance, you name it. They've been around for a long, long time. And cybersecurity has gotten it wrong in the past, and they, of course, corrected. If you look at the NIST advice on password length from 2003, 9 characters, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, change it every 90 days. Come forward 25 years, and they go, oops, that was really bad advice. Everybody cheats, and it becomes predictable. And so we don't think you should do that anymore. And they change it. But that hasn't happened yet in the awareness space, where we create awareness with employees. What we're doing as an industry across the board, and it's a $6 billion industry. So there's a lot of momentum and a lot of push in this one direction of stop the bad behaviors, punish them, fire people if you have to, because it's too dangerous. If they click, we could be sunk as an entire company. City of St. Paul, Minnesota called in the National Guard last week because they had all their systems were down. Somebody did something they shouldn't have, and in ransomware, who knows what else is going on. The FBI has been called in. It's happening every day. So what we're doing clearly isn't working. If you see that by some accounts, the third largest economy in the world last year was cybercrime profit, right? After the United States, China, cybercrime made more money than the third and fourth largest economies of the world by some accounts. Even if it's not half that, it's still $5 to $10 trillion in profits illegally gotten from our companies, from the people listening to this and everyone else out there. It's an enormous problem. So what we're doing isn't working. And if you look at psychology, they say you need to reinforce the good behaviors you want to see more of, not punish the bad behaviors you want to see less of. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, definitely some sort of partnership is better, right? You want them to be partners in your defensive strategy. Your users, yes. You want them to be partners in your defensive strategy, not victims of it, right?
Or adversarial, right? The IT department is supposed to help me, not hurt me. And every day I get these stupid emails that I have to, if I make a mistake, boom, I'm Now I have to take an hour out of my day to watch a video. Ugh.
Yeah. And as a CISO, I feel like a lot of pressure. Like I see emails, I'm like very worried about clicking things. I often don't click anything at all just because, hey, you know what? You don't want your CISO failing a phishing exercise, right?
Right.
So anyways, looking at reports and such like the Mandiant report and the Palo Alto reports that they do, the Verizon DBIR that you referenced a little while ago, that a lot of attacks are actually traversing the browser, right? And we talked about like, hey, there's awareness, but there's also technology. I think in today's practices, we have a lot of inbound security kind of solutions that look at the emails and their domains and their content, and we try to keep those emails off of the network, which is good. And I think that generally we have good technology around that. There's always going to be something that slips through the cracks, whether those are cracks we made or not. But that last kind of bastion, right, is the user. Right. And so I think from a CyberHoot perspective, you're saying, hey, let's get folks more aware of the dangers of traversing the internet. On the SquareX side, what we're trying to do is augment those technologies that we have to protect inbound email. But in those reports, what we're seeing is like 70% or 80% of those attacks that resulted in a breach of companies, whether it was in the Mandiant report, the Palo reports, the Verizon DBIR reports, that 70 to 80% of them are actually traversing the browser. That for that attack to happen, someone had to click a link, they're going somewhere. Oftentimes, their identities are being stolen, sessions are being attacked, with consent. There's lots of little problems that could be happening in your browser, right? And it's definitely one of the technologies that we have is to, hey, how do we protect there? Right? How do you know that this is a typo squatted email, right? How do I give you an indicator that that's a place that you don't want to go, or that someone's impersonating DocuSign or impersonating Microsoft or impersonating the United States Postal Service? There's technology that you can put in your browser to help you defend your users as well, right? Awareness is good.
Yep.
Inbound technologies are great. Outbound protective controls are really good as well because we have a lot of ways of configuring like where you can go. But at the browser, there's technology that you can use today as well. So we got awareness, we got inbound protection, outbound protection, and now we have browser protection as well.
Right. The browser is the last technical barrier between the user and their keyboard, right? And it's not just emails that get read in browsers. There are ads people click on. Ads can be malicious. There's a whole thread of cyber defenses talking about malicious advertisements that get purchased. And the vendors that are selling ads, they don't verify and validate these things all that much. So you could be as innocent as clicking on an advertisement of something that's of interest to you, and it could be malicious in nature. And I know SquareX has some tooling to inspect the JavaScript and inspect the links for malicious intent, right? The further along this path we go, the more devious hackers seem to be coming, right? They're thinking of new ways all the time, faster than we can really defend with technology in some cases, or with certain advances in technology like SquareX has a browser plugin to do much more defensive protections. It's a cat and mouse game, right? Especially with AI coming into play and helping build better mousetraps for attacks. We have to build better defensive mechanisms to defend against that.
Agreed. I mean, I think one of the things that we published recently was about browser AI agents. It's almost like RPA, robotic process automation, that typically you have a whole team in an enterprise to help you go do, right? Yep. To automate your processes. And now we have these browser AI agents that we're sticking into that people can just go and download an extension. Now they have a browser AI agent on their system. These browser AI agents, they use your identity to connect to things. It doesn't have any security training, so we're really kind of dependent on the user to be aware that when they use something like a browser AI agent, that when it's clicking the links, going to your point about like malvertising, right? The browser AI agent doesn't know that it's a bad link or it's malvertising, right? It's not doing the typo squatting checks or anything else. So it
Right.
just kind of clicks there, goes off and does OAuth consents, gives the attacker access to your Google Drive or your Gmail or whatever it asks you for that most people aren't reading. It just makes the problem like just faster to go to. And from a user perspective, they got what they wanted. They got that report that they wanted to make and sent to whoever they needed to send it to. But now the attacker now has access to your environment. Is there anything that that cyber is doing to kind of address like browser AI agents or malicious extensions?
Absolutely. So yeah, so we produce videos alongside our Hoot phishing simulator, right? And the videos, they talk about malvertisement in one of the videos where we talk about, any link you click on can be malicious, whether it's an advertisement, whether it's embedded in an email, whether it's on a website you visited that's referencing another website. It's all potentially dangerous. And, even unsubscribed links. We've blogged about this one where an individual was subscribed to a dozen mailing lists. It was more like 50, and they were dutifully unsubscribing from each one of them. And suddenly their bank called them and said, "Hey, John," I'm being facetious here, but "Hey, John, someone's trying to transfer money out of your bank account." We stopped them because they didn't have multi-factor token authorization to transfer $10,000, but you may have a problem with your account. And then other people started emailing John saying, "Hey, you've been sending me invoices all of a sudden." Turns out that link to unsubscribe was one of them was malicious in nature, reached in and stole their session token to all their live sessions. One was to their bank that they were logged into, the other was to their email they were reading their email from. And away went the hackers. This is called an evil proxy attack, and I'm sure you folks know about that too.
Yeah.
So browser plugins, and by the way, Microsoft just in July of this year, a month ago, added session token prevention capabilities to their lowest entry level licensing agreement. I think it's P1, because of the number of breaches that happened from people reaching in and stealing that session token. So yeah, all manner of different attacks can happen, and we're trying to teach them both through videos, but also through interactive, muscle memory exercises of reading an email and quickly getting to its validity or its malicious nature.
Yeah, like again, the user who is being attacked and be exploited, attackers are going to try many different ways. Even though we have a lot of good technology in place, I think awareness is also very key to getting it, protecting our businesses and our, not just our business, but our personal accounts as well. It definitely is a multi-tiered defense strategy. If you can employ it right. On your LinkedIn, it shows that you're advocating for cybersecurity to be taught in schools. Yes. What are some of the topics in cyber education that should be taught at the curriculum level?
I think you have to go back to basics with students, right? You want to teach them about basic cyber literacy to begin with. Number one, I think password hygiene is an important one. I'll never forget the story of my son who came to me one time with his Xbox account had been hacked and he lost $50 out of his account. And I said, "Well, what happened, son? What do you mean? Someone logged in? You must have had a weak password." He goes, "No, Dad, it was 13 characters long." And we talked about it for a little bit. And then I suggested, "Hey, is your password happen to be first name, ... and last name, ... 13 characters was his first and last name." And he's like, "Oh, you mean that's bad?" He had no idea. People don't recognize basic cyber literacy skills. I mean, beyond any of this, because they just are trusting young adults. So teaching cyber password hygiene or social engineering attacks that occur. Even cyber bullying is another topic that I think is starting to be taught in schools, but the cyber literacy or cyber smarts are not. I mean, the country that adopts really strong cyber awareness training at the youngest ages, maybe, first through eighth grade, and then again in high school, is going to have a strategic advantage on the world stage, because the world's flat, right? You can read Malcolm Gladwell said, "The world is flat. It's been flat for 20 years now." And that means anyone and everyone can compete with one another, can attack one another, etc. How are we going to step up to the table and create a next generation of cyber literate employees and staff members, and both personally and professionally. I think it's a crime not to do it that way, not to share this simple knowledge with some common sense in the educational space. We have a lot of educators in CyberHoot today, but we're still using it to teach the administrators and the teachers and the coaches, not the kids yet. And I think we need to expand into the kids.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of subjects that I think, not just cybersecurity, but like financial literacy. That's another good thing I think people should learn in school. Helping people understand this from an early age and be a little bit more skeptical about what they see online, right? And how they react to it and how those are being taken advantage of, right? And how our youngest populations are, creating passwords and maybe teaching them how to use password managers or making password managers available. And I feel kind of sorry for schools in that I always feel like they're looking for money, and they can't take advantage of all the capabilities that we sell into enterprises every day just because it becomes cost prohibitive at the number of users that you have in a school district. Definitely, I'd like to learn more about what you're advocating in the schools, because I think about that as well, especially at my son's school. It's a smaller district. It would be good to, maybe I'll volunteer and go just do at least a class, like a semester or something, just kind of do that. But I probably need some good ideas on what I should be teaching. So I'll come to you and ask you for some.
I have a presentation I've given to, there was a local technical college, high schoolers, university preparatory. I gave them 3 different classes one morning. I was just invited in through this relationship I have with the New Hampshire school district. And it went over so well. The students were, maybe it was a special group of students because they were college focused, but they had great questions. They were attentive. They were listening. It was just a wonderful thing. And I'd be happy to share those slides with you. Getting something in the cyber literacy space to students would allow us to adopt and adapt for emerging threats. What we're learning this year is that AI is dumbing students down. They're using AI to write papers. And if you ask them 2 weeks after they wrote a paper with AI, what they wrote about, they can't remember. But the students that wrote the paper without AI remembered exactly what they wrote. There's also threats to disinformation that we could add to the curriculum that says, when you and I went to school, we had to cite every source of conjecture we made in our paper. Otherwise, we failed. We were told that paper, you didn't cite your reference, you didn't cite your source, big red X, you're done. Today, if it's on the internet, it's true, right? So we could teach them a little bit of validation of sources. There are cybersecurity statistics I still to this day cannot find the source of. My biggest pet peeve, John, is 60% of businesses that get breached will go out of business in 6 months to a year. There's absolutely no source for that quote. It's everywhere. You can find dozens of websites and articles quoting it. There's no truth to it.
Just fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah, so we would have the opportunity if we had a program for student cyber literacy training to add in cyberbullying, to add in sourcing your materials, to add in skepticism around conjecture statements.
That's critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking. Yeah.
It would seem to be like the requirement for me to get through high school and college was critical thinking. Exactly. Now today, people I remember being asked about Gen AI a couple of years ago and whether we should adopt it in the company or not. And I'm like, absolutely, we should adopt it. We should be, going full force into it. And lawyer was asking me, well, what about if it hallucinates and it gives you an answer that sounds like it's true, but it's not true? And I'm like, well, that's like talking to people every day for me.
That's right. People make statements every day.
I have this filter on in my head that I'm always thinking about what people tell me, and could it be true or could it not be true? Right? Or is there something wrong here? And I'm always applying that lens, and maybe that's why I'm a CISO.
Well, that's our job. I was just going to say.
Exactly. Maybe that's our job.
Never believe what you see.
Zero trust. Don't trust anybody.
That's right.
Yeah. So always verify. Yeah. And that is a critical thinking skill. And just think about, why would the CEO ask you to go get $24,000 worth of cards, right? Gift cards, just doesn't make logical sense. But I mean, again, you're a new employee. You don't know what they do.
Right.
But the easiest thing to do is just go verify with that person. Hey, I got this text from you. Is this really from you?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that guy doesn't, it is from him and he doesn't beat you over the head and says, of course it's from me. Just go do what I tell you to do.
Right.
But anyway, you're clearly not focused on the technical side. You call yourself a cyber literacy innovator. Mm-hmm. What does cyber literacy mean to you, and how is it different from traditional security training?
Well, literacy is a term that I like to use. I don't think it's used enough, and maybe it's too fancy of a word. It means cyber smarts, cyber common sense. You've mentioned it. Financial literacy needs to be more of, right? Our young people aren't always financially literate around credit cards and borrowing and this and that. Reading literacy, no matter where we go in life, we understand literacy as reading literacy, financial literacy. And now I'd love to see cyber literacy become the norm across society, because there is a clear gap between what people ought to know and what they know. And so it's our mission at CyberHoot to educate 1 billion people with a B. That's our BHAG for cyber literacy skills. We give it away free for individuals. So anyone listening to this can go to cyberhoot.com/individuals and register for a lifetime account. We're not planning to shut it off ever. You'll get a monthly video and a phishing simulation, and we'll build cyber literacy in you each and every month. And we'll continue to keep that knowledge current because we produce new content every year, a 12-month program of videos on the emerging threats we face. So I think that innovation of providing it free to anyone, hoping that when they go to work, they'll bring it with them and they'll get their IT team or their CFO, CTO to enroll because it's been fun. It's been educational without being burdensome, is the innovation we're seeking. So if I call myself a cyber literacy innovator, it's because I'm trying to get people to stop punishing and start rewarding what we want to see. It works in dog training. It works in parenting. It works in incarcerated adults. If no matter the analogy, if you look at any analogy in the world and you say, I want behavior change for this, you can't get it by punishing this. You have to give alternatives and reward those alternatives, the good behaviors, the change behaviors that you want more of. And in every case, that will work. This will not. And in between is this apathy and disengagement problem that everyone gives up and says, it's not my job. It's the IT person's job. They should protect me. I can click whatever I want, or, and should be immune to this.
In some aspects, I agree. I think the IT and the cyber people should be doing what they can to defend. But again, there's always going to be a gap. More code that's in the world, the more configuration changes, as fast as our technology changes, there's always going to be a gap that hackers take advantage of. I mean, I've been hearing this for 30 some plus years, and that we're going to solve, hacking or freaking or this or that, whatever it is that was being hacked. People have told me that they're going to solve it. And, 30 years plus later, I'm still defending against the same kinds of attacks. I think there's like 12 different kinds of attacks that actually happen that take advantage of a computer. And I think I've been doing those, 30 some years now.
Right.
So, users, we've got to engage them. They've got to feel good about it, and they've got to be part of the solution. We can't pretend like they're the problem. Okay, well, outside your professional work, you've been riding your bike for the Pan Mass Challenge for years.
Yes.
What parallels do you see between endurance cycling and building long-term cybersecurity resilience?
Oh, that's a softball question. I love it. The similarities are enormous. I guess the first weekend in August for the last 11 years, my son and I have ridden 192 miles on our bikes, 2 days. So 110 day one, 82 the next day. And we do this to raise money for cancer research at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Massachusetts. And it's part of the world's largest sports-related fundraiser. Over the last 45 years, they've raised $1 billion with a B. And they've created multiple drugs that are very specifically targeting unique cancers that prevent those cancers or cure you don't ever say cure, but they put it into remission and those sorts of things. the analogy between riding 192 miles and cyber literacy journey is that it takes a long time. It almost feels like it's never going to end. And it is a lifelong approach to fitness, to becoming more aware so you're more secure, to a confidence that when you get on that bicycle and you know where you're going and you know how to ride and you're not going to get hurt, you're going to follow the rules of the road, you're going to be with a bunch of other cyclists, you're working together towards a common purpose. In that case, ending cancer. In our case, it's to create literacy across the world. So fewer dollars go into the hands of bad actors and more dollars stay in the companies and businesses that are listening to this today that need it to survive. So I think those are the synergies and the symbolism that we're seeking.
Great answer. I love it. Craig, it's been great having you on the Be Fearless podcast. I'm definitely going to send that link to my parents, for the individual training, and my wife and my son, make sure that they're all going to have some literacy.
Yes.
I love it. Definitely am in support of your goals to train 1 billion people in cybersecurity literacy. So thanks for being on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You've been a great host, John. Thank you for all the great questions.